Continuing our discussion with Renu Khator, the Chancellor of the University of Houston System and the President of the University of Houston. We're talking about Tier 1 and the success we had in the legislature with this topic. Why were we so successful this year? Was that community support, political support, or just the stars aligned?
Well, I think first of all, it's the clarity of message, and then it's the community support, 100%. I have said it from day one, that if the community wants this university to be better, it can get better. If the community doesn't support us, we won't. And this year, I must tell you, our alumni, our community leaders, our political leaders, our civic leaders, I think all of them were 100% behind us. They had the message, they knew exactly why it needs to happen, why it needs to happen for the community, not necessarily for the university.
So that may have been the tipping point.
Absolutely. I do believe that was a
the community understand why it benefits the community, not necessarily why it should benefit the university.
Right.
Although benefiting the university benefits the community.
Right. It's not a badge of honor for the university or for me to say, well, I am president of the Tier 1 university. It is because what it can do to the community. And as a result, the Greater Houston Partnership made our priority, which is being Tier 1, as their number one priority, and the chairman of the Greater Houston Partnership was in Austin. He testified before the Senate Higher Ed Committee as to why it is so important for them. I think that's why it has been so successful.
It was interesting that the legislature brought in the idea of a constitutional amendment. This is something that is very important because it then has a dedicated fund for these dollars. The governor can't come along and say, well, I'm going to veto the expenditures for you. This is dedicated money, and something we can count on.
Absolutely, and that's why we've always said that we need sustained, significant source of funding without any kind of interruptions or political interruptions, something that's a lot more predictable. Of course, nothing is predictable. You know what happened to endowment this time, but still. So the idea was that we could have a constitutional amendment, just like there's a PUF funding, there could be a similar source of funding to add additional Tier 1 universities on the state of Texas roster. And there was a fund that was dormant, which was for higher education purpose, and some of the senators identified that source of fund. So the constitutional amendment doesn't really ask for additional money, at least not now. What they are saying is that this dormant fund should really be designated to build more Tier 1 universities.
And this money won't be in the state budget. This will be out of the budget. It will be controlled by the controller.
Absolutely.
Through investments, and then we take the proceeds from the investments.
That's absolutely true.
All right, so how will we use these dedicated restricted funds?
Right.
I think the key word here is restricted.
That's true. Well, first the question is, how are we going to access these funds? And we are going to access these funds once we meet the criteria. And there are several criteria, and a couple of those criteria are being worked out by the coordinating board, and we'll continue to work with them. But the bottom line is trying to push the universities to be excellent, trying to push the universities to be nationally competitive, trying to build additional universities in the state of Texas that are known nationally and globally. So I think it's a very noble, very worthy cause. And I'm very hopeful that voters will realize that. So let's say that we meet the criteria and we access the funds. When we do that, we are going to use them very strategically, very focused manner to make sure that we are rewarding excellence. And first of all, the very important thing for us to become a Tier 1 university is for us to be able to say what is excellent and what is mediocre. If we ourselves cannot recognize that and we think, oh, everything is great, we just don't have the attributes of being a Tier 1 institution, which means the faculty and the staff will have to see what is in the university that really can take us high-flying this year, what investments can take us next year, and what investments can take us beyond. So I think it's going to be very consultative, very open process, but it will be very strategic.
And this money can be used for construction?
No, it is not for, it's basically to build research capacity, but we do have another legislation passed this year that we haven't talked about. Actually, there's an element within the enabling legislation that's called TRIP, or the Texas Research Incentive Program. It sets aside for this session $50 million to match the private donations. So when the people are able to give us funding for endowed fellowships, for research facilities, for research operations, then legislature will take the funds from here and match for the university. And what we are supposed to use those funds is really to enhance our ability to be more nationally competitive. And now let me also say this, it's not just about research, because I believe the Tier 1 institution must be a Tier 1 learning environment for students. So as we become better, stronger, I think our students will find that the environment in which they are also prepares them better to be in this competitive marketplace, to be the leaders in this global market economy.
So we're talking about using the money for the recruitment and retention of faculty and researchers for the students.
Definitely.
Labs.
Definitely.
And improved labs. So what else?
Anything that enhances our ability to be creative, to be innovative, to produce research and scholarship, and to give that as knowledge, to share that knowledge with the community and as well as with the students. So there really are no limits that way. The limits are by ourselves in our strategic plan. How is it that we become nationally competitive university? We do have a very solid strategic plan that has been put together by faculty, staff, and student input.
November is the election.
3rd of November.
All right, so what do we do between now and November? Or what will the university be doing?
We will be working with our 6 other emerging research universities, and our goal will be to give the information out, to be able to educate people as to what the value of this constitutional amendment is. And I trust the voters will make their own choice, but our objective is and our obligation is to make sure the information is there.
And hoping that alumni groups and other stakeholders, constituents mobilize to get out the vote. I mean,
Right.
this is not not even a midterm election in November.
It's not, but we have important election on November 3rd. Other than creating a Tier 1 university in Houston, we will also be electing our mayor. So I really do think the voters will be interested in coming out, because this is a historic moment for the state of Texas, and it doesn't take anything away from the 2 institutions that we have. I am so proud of those 2 institutions, UT and A&M. I think they do so well for us. They carry the flag for the state of Texas, and we just want to be able to do our share and contribute to the region and the state.
All right. We're going to continue our discussion with President Renu Khator in just a moment.